Hey, what's going on this morning? What's going on this morning? What's going on this morning? Y'all know what it is. It's your boy Trey, and this is E2G's. That's Ear to the Ground Sports Network presents First Formation Morning Sports Talk. Come on and fall in with me. It's your boy Trey. As we talk about what's been going on lately in some of the world of sports, predominantly, we're going to have a conversation about NBA as well as the NFL, as we know, cut day was yesterday in the NFL. We talk about some of the moves that was made by some of these organizations, some of our favorite organizations. Maybe a little conversation about uh, NCAA football. So we got a little time today, and we're gonna spend it on some of that. So come on, fall in. Let's talk about it. Let's get it. Let's get it. As I was speaking about, the reference to some in the NBA. As we know, of course, yesterday, the NBA is due to start back up in October time frame, in which we get an opportunity to see all our biggest and brightest stars back in action as they have another quest uh, to pick up that award. We do know that the Los Angeles Lakers will open up their season in Golden State versus the Golden State Warriors as they receive their fourth championship ring, and then we go from there. So still some willing and dealing going on. However, NBA over the week, the New York Knicks came to terms with guard RJ Barrett as they work to secure a 4-year, $120 million extension, which for the most part, this basically puts, excuse me, this basically puts the pursuit for Donovan Mitchell in limbo, I guess you could say, or basically ends it for now. It has been reported that possibly he is still able potentially to get to become a Knick if possible, but the Knicks will have to give up a lot more. Probably a couple of players as well as future draft assets. But I mean, if you think that Donovan Mitchell is worth it, he's going to bring that much more to the table. Then of course you pull that trigger. Ultimately, what the initial thoughts were is that Donovan Mitchell is going to be traded for RJ Barrett and other players. But of course, now it could still happen potentially, but it does bring on a provision with him signing that extension. Now, uh, it puts New York in a position to where they can send out less, but have to receive more. So there's a cost to pay for these trades, especially at this point. Um, of course, with this deal, it makes RJ Barrett the first New York Knicks player, franchise rookie to earn an extension of $100 million or more since 1999. That has been a long time, and even that individual was Heisman Trophy winning quarterback turned NBA guard Charlie Ward. Of course, RJ Barrett averaged this year 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. So keeping him in the fold it may be conducive to building a better Knicks team. Uh, good morning, Jackie. Good morning. Glad to see you in formation. Uh, it it builds a better Knicks team. So for the most part, potentially we might see some action in we might see a little action in New York this week. This year remains to be seen. Of course, other moves made. Forward Markeith Morris agrees to a 1-year contract to be a part of the backcourt in Brooklyn, as he would join Kevin Durant Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, in Brooklyn, as he signed that deal. We all know he does have championship caliber, as he won a 2019 ring with the Los Angeles Lakers during their run. 11-year veteran, averaging 8 points last year for the Miami Heat. He leaves the Miami Heat to go to Brooklyn. Of course, he could also be known for the 4 months in which he was out for the whiplash that he sustained after he was shoved by NBA for current NBA MVP Nikola Jokic after Morris um, did a flagrant foul on him. Jokic jumped up, retaliated by pushing him in the back, in which he suffered whiplash, was out for 4 months. So now we look at it. If that's going to be formidable enough, has Brooklyn built what it sees? What I see or what I foresee is a lot of teams are straying away from the picking up a bunch of veterans that are even in their prime or past their prime or going out their prime, and to build these rosters with is a difference. Definitely a difference in their we're starting to see it. They're going away from it and trying to move within the more intermediate. Although we are picking up, we do have the Donatas Haslam's that are still on rosters for of course obvious reasons. Marquise Morris now. But I mean, those are moves that's always done to basically help the organization in state, and hopefully you bring in someone that's formidable enough to be able to hold the line and be able to contribute somewhat, and it's just not a complete loss. So good luck to Marquise Morris out in Brooklyn. Uh, Additionally, the NBA has put out their NBA COVID policy. Basically, unvaccinated players and staff have to test weekly. Now, these individuals with recent cases will not have to test for some time, but if they don't have a test, they have to do it weekly. Masks are not mandatory, however, they are recommended in areas in which are high and concentrate with in markets with high numbers of cases, deemed by the government, that local government. Additionally, players must get the test when exhibiting any type of symptoms, and or any member of their home has contracted or diagnosed being diagnosed with the COVID. Of course, they have to report. Intrusive, maybe, maybe not. I don't think so. I think it's definitely a situation to where you just have to do what you do. You have to keep the masses safe. Um, I don't know. I don't think they it's mandatory for uh, people attending the games to be vaccinated. Um, but of course, in any case, it doesn't. If something isn't mandatory, it doesn't hurt to go ahead and throw on a mask and pull up and walk into a venue or anything like that. So um, it's just a new normal, the new normal that we have to deal with. Continue on. Um, Interesting piece in which I found to where yesterday or over the week, Lakers, not Lakers, Los Angeles Clipper guard John Wall had shared a bit of intimacy with us as he was at a dedication ceremony from his recently passed mother. His mother passed in 2019 from breast cancer. As and she worked at a Salvation Army in his home of Raleigh, North Carolina, or near the not Raleigh, North Carolina. But the Salvation Army dedicated a garden to her because she was a frequent and consistent volunteer at the Salvation Army. And during this dedication, John Wall decided to speak, and he let it be known that at some point during the time frame while he was out from the NBA. I mean, from playing, dealing with his Achilles injury that he had to rehab. He had a moment in which he thought about committing suicide. He basically spoke to it. He said once losing his mother, a year later he lost his grandmother to COVID. His mother was only 58. But a year later, he lost his mother to COVID, a grandmother to COVID, with the whole thing of rehabbing the Achilles and not playing. he said he was just in a dark place, and it was a point to where he just he had thoughts of ending it all. But he said he started speaking. Uh, what up, Eric? Good morning, brother. Glad to have you in formation. Uh, he had points to say he was speaking about what he was talking, and it hit a low point. But did say he did go seek help. He's like it was one of those points. He basically spoke and said that he recommends that if you're in a dark place or you're having problems, to definitely go and seek help, because as always you always believe that you're strong enough to face it on your own, that you're able to get through it. And he's like, sometimes it just helps. He's like, him going to seek a therapist and getting with a therapist was immense in his healing process. And basically that's what helped him to get through to where he didn't have to uh deal with all the stuff in which was going on from his mental aspect. Of course, LeBron James heard it, his production, he heard it, and sent the tweet out to him saying that at John Wall, we got your back always. LeBron James echoed that sentiment and with a emphatic and clear, I do mean always. Don't ever question it, bro. Proud of you. Of course, for coming out and stating that could be a vulnerable point. So, you know what I'm saying? Again, a fraternity of individuals when you look at it. Um, so John Wall, of course, is in a different place now when it comes to that thing. He said he's been dealing with it. He's gotten over it. And he's ready to play ball. You know, he's like I said before, now a Clipper. Um, and ready to open up, getting ready to play ball. So, um, we'll see him in action on the 20th of October as they face off against their cross hall rival, the Los Angeles Clippers, in Crypto.com Arena as they continue to get their stadium ready, where they will take up a new residence and be out of the shadow of the Lakers for now. A way ago. Um, Lastly, a little NBA fodder or talk. LeBron James appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Of course, if you know, back in 2002, LeBron appeared on the course Sports Illustrated cover with the iconic the chosen one, um, as he was looking at going from one of the last rookies to go from the high school stadium to the pros. Now what you have is his children, Bronny and Bryce James, 15 and 17 years olds respectively, appear on the cover with their father, with the title Chosen Sons. As we know, Bryce James is a 17-year-old senior, um, Sierra Cannon, that is looking at potentially going into the NBA in the next year or so. What that is going to be, whether the rules are changed from the next CBA, allowing the 18-year-old to get into the league, or if it's going to be via a year in college or so, or it's going to be via him going overseas, or even playing in what the NBA G League created was the G League Ignite. He's expected to be in the league within the next 2 years. Of course, Bryce, who is 3 years his 3 years younger than Bronny, um, is potentially the correction. 2 years younger than Bronny is looking at potentially going through, which it might be a little more conducive for him if you're talking about the change in the CBA. Um, they not ready, Eric. So I think Bryce is a little further along than Bronny is, but Bronny, of course, is the oldest. True enough, Bronny might not be too bad for him to go ahead and take a year in college, where there was a couple of institutions that have looked at and recruiting him. Of course, I'm very sure by the end of the year, and let's not omit the fact that he's LeBron James' son, in which most organizations and institutions would do something just so they can utilize that to their benefit. Their offer. So it remains to be seen what is going to happen. Of course, LeBron was interviewed by Bill Ballard, and he basically stated and talked about how he would love to play with his children. Of course, like I said, Bronny being the first one, he's like that's what part of him re-signing. He's like at this point he prays to the basketball gods and leave it up to the basketball gods, and it's all about his body and what his body's going to be able to do. You're talking about 4 years in the league. Um, you put him at 42 years old as he's currently 38, turns 39 at the end of the year. Um, he's currently signed with the Lakers through the 2025 season. So he would be looking at least a year or two in order to meet that criteria or that threshold to be able to play with both sons, which would be, I'm very sure, in his own right, would be a goal and accomplishment to see it to where he can play in the same league, potentially face his son, his oldest son, and his youngest son. But of course, we just continue to watch out to see for that. To have that opportunity and possibility is crazy. Yeah. So and then Bryce is older, is taller as well. And he's still, I mean, he's only 15. You could expect that he's going to grow taller. I wonder what his game will mimic or who his game will mimic for the most part. Uh, but I guess it's when you look at it, it's ideal and key and beneficial when you have potentially one of the greatest players of in the lifetime as your father to train you. No different to saying Kobe, rest in peace, was doing with Gigi when she picked up the mantle and wanted to become that and started teaching her. Saying things, the immaculate things come to light when you're taught something, even when you didn't think it was this or you was able to do it until you start working on it, and saying it starts to come into fruition. So of course, just like anything else, we look forward to seeing exactly Ken Griffey Jr. They play the same team, so same thing, see it in basketball. So I mean, it's a possibility, great possibility that it happen. He's going to try it happen. At minimum, I think we'll see Bronny for the most part, probably not on the same team, but we'll definitely see them in the same league. We already know how the NBA works. That's going to be a Monday marquee game, especially if Bronny is taken early in the and is a key prospect to where the NBA can market it as um, father versus son, like father like son, or something like that. And when it comes out to be in the game, again for them to play in the game against, opposing teams, possibly, um, hey, it's a marketing tool, and they can push it. Now, if he's just, I do believe that they would still try it if he's just like a second round pick. Um, if he could just be a second round pick, if he could just be a second round pick or something like that, that still would work out. Um, if not, if he becomes a drafted free agent, undrafted free agent, then of course that's going to add a little something to it. Unless he can go on and actually make a roster and put some time in and build himself. So there's a lot of different ways. I'm very sure the NBA is going to find this way to get that in there. Um, Of course, last one yesterday didn't get a chance to talk about it, but the USA did defeat Colombia at 95-77. We're talking about USA in World Cup play. They defeated them 95-77 behind the 26 points from John um, Jenkins. The team is now 7-1 or 8-1, I believe, in play in World Cup play as they continue to make their way to get into the qualifier to play into the World Cup finals, so that way they can be secure their position. 81, yes, I appreciate it, Eric. 81, so they can secure their position in the World Cup and then secure their position in the Olympic team. So of course the young guns from the U.S. Teams are doing all the lifting currently to secure a spot, so that way whomever the USA's team will be um, that will be selected can go and secure yet another goal if possible. We've had a little conversation before as we talked about it's not as easy as it used to be. The world is starting to catch up with talent, and it's getting a little harder when you got players like Giannis, Nikola Jokic, um, uh, Luka Doncic, and all those people that play for these teams. And these are stars in the NBA, where you don't know or we're not seeing who's going down, what's going on. Is who's going down and what's going on. So you still basically have it like there's still players over those other leagues in those other countries that can ball and that can go, or maybe somewhat equivalent to some of the players in the NBA. So it just becomes one of those situations to where it's definitely not just going to be an easy task. We'd be foolish to just think, oh, the California correction. I don't know why I'm just thinking LA team. We'd be foolish to believe that the NBA USA team would just go a run roughshod over everybody. It's getting a little harder, but it remains to be seen. Um, Shout out! I think their next game will be against I think Spain, Brazil, or somebody. Uh, it just rolls right off my tongue, Eric. It just came so naturally. I didn't realize it, but of course, it remains to be seen. Like I said, today a little shorter show. Moving fast and furiously through these topics. NFL, maybe this one might take a little more time. Um, the NFL, as we know it, yesterday was cut day. But before I get into that, interesting enough, Coach John Gruden has re-entered into the world of football as he comes out and speaks for the first time since he was released by the since being released um, by the Las Vegas Raiders. As y'all know, John Gruden was caught slipping. Good morning, Frat. What's going on, Stanton? Taylor Made. As we know, he was caught slipping as going through. You still think he's racist, Eric? He was caught slipping going through as they were probing and investigating the Washington Redskins. Correction, now the Washington Commanders. In that faction, they came across some emails that were of racist content, misogynistic content, and it was kind of emails sent by John Gruden that were uncovered. So, of course, all that led to John Gruden basically being released from his 10-year, $100 million contract with the Las Vegas Las Vegas Raiders, and ultimately he was ousted. So now he has basically came on and he said he wanted to be true and contrite, and to be honest, with the letters in which he said were basically very shameful. But he says that he still remains says that he is a good person, and he hopes for another chance. Actually, his to quote, I'm ashamed about what has come about in these emails, and I'll make no excuses for it. It's shameful, but I'm a good person. I believe that I go to church. I've been married for 31 years. I've got 3 great boys. I still love football. I've made some mistakes, but I don't think anybody here has it. And I just ask for forgiveness, and hopefully I get another shot. Now, I don't know if he's just specifically speaking to another shot as a NFL coach, or even to get back on in the booth doing commentating or back on shows, but it remains to be seen which if someone goes ahead and spins that olive branch and allows him to get back into the swing of things, or if he basically ended his career and he'll be doing little shows here and there, appearances, and basically doing commentating or create his own show where he can commentate that way. That's always a possibility as well. If anyone to touch him, I don't think he's completely nuclear at this time, but I think he does have to go through. Um, he has to go through some growing pains. Uh, if they hire him, you know what, Eric? Stranger things have happened. I could even see it. I'm not going to even hold you, bro. I don't think it's just completely off topic to where they wouldn't put him in. He'll get back. He'll get back on someone's squad. No different than Urban Meyer after everything that happened at Ohio State. He went on to go back into commentating. He even got an opportunity to coach after the commentating didn't work out, and now I think he's working to get back into commentating. However, it's like you said, it is not the same. Uh, it's not the same as what Gruden did. Um, but you know what? I would be interested. So if Cap isn't able or wasn't able to secure another quarterbacking position on an organization as far as the NFL, I would be interested to know, has he or has his agent been pursuing trying to get him into leagues like the XFL or the USFL. Additionally, has it been spoken about, or does he have any aberration to coach or do anything outside of that, whether it's coaching or being someone's for office or commentating or a sideline commentating or getting into any of that. So I would be interested if he's willing to do that, or has it been brought up, or is he just basically like, you know what, I'm good. It's QBing or nothing. So I think there those are other things. It might have just been a time in which Cap isn't like, he had his reign. He was good 3 or 4 years after that shoulder injury. It took away from what was his strength, which was the velocity in which he threw that ball. Um, Even when he was that for the most part he was they use his abilities, being his ability to run and get out the pocket and find open pockets to get the ball, zip the ball through. That started going away, dwindle. Outside of that, he was, I'm not gonna say suspect, but he had some uh limited abilities, and I think it started to get exposed, and that's some of the reason why, or they can use to hide or mask the reasons why he's not in the league now. But I mean, like we said before, it's been said time and time again, there's a lot of QBs or quarterbacks or players in that same boat that are similar, which brings it back to the fact of he took the knee and ruffled some feathers in the process in which some of those owners presumably held off and did not allow him to get back into the league. I'm not even say allow him to get back to the league. Did not offer him, except for there was a couple that said they were open to it, but he went and tried out, and it wasn't what they wanted. So, but I hope he gets on somewhere and finds something. Of course, additionally with Deshaun Watson, I know that conversation is finally over, but it pops up one more time as we know. Yesterday was the end of the preseason, and now we are basically a week and a half away from the start of the NFL starting. I believe it's September 7th or 9th. Let me confirm that real quick before I give y'all some soft information for all those QB heads out there that's ready for the season to start. Be like, I thought so. Started NFL season. Out with the old, in with the new. September 7th. So, correction, September 8th. So just a little over a week away from the start of the NFL season. Starting with a Thursday night football game. The defending NFL Super Bowl champions Los Angeles Rams will take on, excuse me, again. Los Angeles Rams will take on, yeah, it is. It's going to get real, Eric. But the Rams will take on the Buffalo Bills to open up Thursday night football. As y'all know, Thursday night football now has shifted from the NFL network to uh, Amazon Prime Video presents Thursday night football, and that's where it kicks off at. So a week away, 7 days from tomorrow, we'll be sitting down at our TVs when it's real. It's time go time. Uh, but of course, like I was saying, now that being said, Deshaun Watson starts. Ooh, that's a pretty bold statement, Eric. Pretty bold statement. Although The only reason I won't is I just think the Buffalo Bills doesn't have enough of a presence at wide receiver to be able to overcome the defense in LA. That's my only reason why I wouldn't just go with Buffalo. But like I said, Deshaun Watson now starts his sentence of 11 game sentence. He'll be away from the team for the next 3 months. I think he can't come back to the team or come back to the facility till late October, and then after that, he can start practicing in November and potentially make his debut versus his former Houston Texans in Houston. And I think it's week 12 or something like that. So, or 13, 12 or 13. I think it's 13. So now that, saying he has that to serve that time for what he's described as being his crimes. Additionally, also, if y'all didn't catch it yesterday, New Orleans sends cornerback Gardner Johnson to Philadelphia. A trade that I've seen like a lot of Saints fans, like I've been in Louisiana, I see and know a lot of Saints fans, and they were going in, trying to figure out what's going on, why are they doing this. It's funny because I know a lot of them. I know Johnson has an edge. CJ Gardner Johnson has an edge to him and plays with a little chip on the shoulder. But I also know that I've also heard them and seen them post and talk about how he can't cover or how he does stuff. He does too much. Um, Now that he's gone, it's all this talk. Is like, man, what's going on? Is all the sad faces and everything. But they did get 2 draft picks. I think a fourth and a seventh, I believe, or a fourth and a fifth, or a third and fifth, something like that. But they're bringing 2 draft picks for him, in which, interesting enough, it remains to be seen. I think Gardner is supposed to potentially play, might get shifted to safety instead of playing. He's been playing nickelback. He might make a transition to safety as he's played before in some essence. So, going into that conversation, as we know, cut day was yesterday, 80 to 53, 53-man rosters now. Of course, as players make it through waivers are not picked up after being released, they are able to go back to the organizations and build out what is a 14 man um, practice squad, in which, of course, players can be called up from the practice squad. So it's like more like a hide and stash situation in a bit if they're able to make it through waivers. Of course, a couple of situations where the biggest moves prior to the cutback. Let's start with my beloved San Francisco 49ers. As we all know, they made the move to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back to be a top-notch key um, cog in for the team, as he now will presumably serve as a backup quarterback. Reduced his pay, gave him some incentives, and now he's there. However, so him bringing back a fold to be a backup, not a shabby backup in my opinion. Of course, we know they released players like Jamichael Hasty, Willie Snead the fourth was released as well. Uh, it, we still have grand gestures, and we look forward to him being productive for the most part. Top notch, Eric. You know what it is. Come on, man. We're not gonna act like there's no one on here out here or here hearing me here or under the cover of my voice right now would not want Jimmy G to be in their quarterback room, to be able to, if their starter goes down, to be able to say we're good. Primarily, we still have Jimmy Garoppolo. There's no one that can say that. I would like to know who can possibly do that. And continuing the conversations, in which we'll get to a little bit later, there's some teams that need a backup quarterback for whatever reason. I mean, different rank. He all right, I'll give you that. Like I said, all I can say is I hate to be the guy to live in the past, but two-time in the last 4 years, 2 time NFL, NFC conference championship game, 1 time Super Bowl. The only time in which he hasn't made it to the NFC championship game or the Super Bowl is when he was injured. 31-14 as a starter. Super Bowl he has rings. So his resume is all right. I ain't saying he's a Hall of Famer, but he has a resume. Again, another team, Arizona Cardinals release linebacker Devin Kennard, which is interesting when they released Chandler Jones last at the beginning of the season. Now Chandler Jones is a Las Vegas Raider, but they let him go, preferring to go with a young passing group, young pass rushers instead. But I foresee that Kennard will get on somewhere else. Who else? That was the most interesting for the Cardinals. Who else? What else we got? Buffalo Bills release tight end OJ Howard. If we all know OJ Howard, he had a monster game when he was at Alabama. Really, he helped Alabama win that game, that national championship year. He was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really didn't catch on there. Of course, his last stop was the Buffalo Bills, in which they released him. But I do foresee possibly OJ Howard is probably going to get picked up, although he has diminished in his skill set over the last couple of years. But the most interesting is that the Bills did take their one of their top cornerbacks, Tre'Davious White, and placed him on IR or physically unable to perform list. Of course, you know, as we discussed, him being on that list, he eats up a roster spot. But what's going to happen is they will be able to put him on that IR list, which gives him preservation to where he can start, or he can play. After missing 4 games. So, I mean, although he ate up a roster spot, he can come back off that list, get inserted back into the game, into the 53-man roster after 4 games, and then go from there. So, but he had to go forth on the list first in order to do that. Additionally, the Buffalo Bills released Matt Barkley, another name which you know, USC. Um, is there anyone else? Raheem Blackshear, the running back. I remember him playing with the New York Giants. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Those are top names which I see. Um, the Baltimore Ravens. Looking at signing Kenyon Drake is one of their biggest moves, possibly expected to sign Kenyon Drake to add to the J.K. Dobbs, Mike Davis, and Justin Hill running back room. We all know Baltimore is known for having rushing attacks, of course, with the leg and being powered by Lamar Jackson, true dual threat quarterback. Um, I think that was one of their biggest ones. Let's see more. Daryl Sworley, running cornerback. We know earlier in the season they released Huntley. They kept Huntley and released Huntley. What else? What else? What else? That's made it the biggest names for the Ravens. Who else we got? The Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, we knew earlier last week that the report that last week they released Kenyon Drake and kept going forth with who they had at running back. I don't think they released any of the other running backs. They kept all of them. Also, they traded cornerback Trayvon Mullins and released their 17th overall pick, Alex Leatherwood. See, this is that thing, right? It's clear and concise when you look at it how these players they get have high. He was just drafted last year, 2021, 17th overall pick, tackle Alex Leatherwood. He didn't pan out, so they released him. And it goes speaks to Hottie to, of course, he was drafted by John Gruden. I'm very sure had John Gruden still be at the helm of the organization, he might still be on because I mean that's his quarterback. I mean his draft pick. But obviously, Coach McDaniel doesn't see the same thing that Coach Gruden see, and he basically isn't living up to it, and now he is waiting to potentially be picked up by someone else. He still has $14 million on his guaranteed fully contract, uh, in which they have to eat a portion of that. So although we release and he's without a job, he's still gonna get some pay and compensation. So maybe he gets picked up at some point. Additionally, we talked about the New Orleans Saints. Their biggest move was moving C.J. Gardner Johnson. Um, they released Ian Book. Appreciate it, JD. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Um, uh, they released Taco Charlton. I didn't even know he was in they he hadn't been picked up, but defensive end Taco Charlton released. Um, ooh, Ian Book released, but of course, this understood is most likely they're going to go back and pick up Ian Book and put him on the practice squad. Um, Gardner released. Bradley Robley, well, he's still in the fray. Um, so yeah, and it was a 2023 fifth round pick and the 2024 sixth round pick is what C.J. Gardner was signed for, was traded for. Mm, that boot, baby. What y'all gonna do this year? The Atlanta Falcons, of course, a slew of players. So this is the interesting thing about the Atlanta Falcons. It's not necessarily who they release. It's more so about who they kept. So as I look through it, there's a plethora. Atlanta Falcons, I don't know if this is their new thing, but basically they have a bunch of players in which are converted individuals. Of course, they have receiver Jared Burkhart, who was a converted lacrosse player turned quarterback that made the 53-man roster. Interestingly, because you already have quarterbacks who have been there all this time. So you're telling me anyone that's in that room that was a quarterback outside of Ritter and Mariota could not beat out this individual that is a lacrosse player turned quarterback. I mean, he's a receiver that was converted from a lacrosse player and turned into a quarterback. Additionally, of course, we already know they have Patterson, a Cordell Patterson, that was a wide receiver turned running back. That, of course, is on their roster. He just got a bag this year. Additionally, they have quarterback turned tight end in Felipe Franks. If you know, Felipe Franks played at University of Florida as a quarterback, and even played in some of the preseason games this year as a quarterback. Cornerback turned running back Avery Williams, and defensive end turned tight end Parker Hess, all on the roster, all make the 53-man roster. What's going on in the ATL? Where they is it that much of a disparate in talent that these converts are making the rosters, or is it just a play on words where it's like, okay, we still got technically we have a quarterback in Felipe Franks, we have a quarterback in Jared Burkhart. Maybe we can use that in different ways. I don't know if we got some. If we ever need a defensive lineman, we can play. Parker. 4 games. I think they got a little more than 4 games in them, Eric. But I mean, hey, like I said, stranger things will happen. Uh, But I think I'm honestly I believe that I know Bishop or a lot of other people, maybe Ron would disagree with me, but I think that's New Orleans' division to win. And I can say, although I think they might get more than 4 games, I do think that Atlanta will be still at the bottom of the division. Who is this? What's this? The Commanders. I know I don't see Anthony on today, but the Commanders, interestingly enough, kept Brian Robinson Jr., the running back out of Alabama. We just recently spoke about him earlier this week as he was a victim of a potential carjacking attempted robbery in which he was shot multiple times, and he's made it through surgery and recovering. As opposed to moving him to a physically unable to perform list or a any other list, they have elected to keep him on the active roster. Now, I don't know if they're going to go ahead and release him I mean, not release him, but if they're going to go ahead and put him on IR after that, pushing it to where he has 4 games in which he's not able to play, and by the 4th game, hopefully he's back and ready to go. The recovery time they don't have. There's no set deadline on that, so it's not sure. But they did, however, keep him on the active roster. He was a 53-man roster. So he takes into the quarter running back room with Jonathan Williams, Anthony Gibson, and J.D. McKissick. You, you know what? When I seen this and heard this about Brian Robinson, in my mind, I'm going to share you with my thoughts. I was like, I wonder, is this a? I was like, don't let it come out that it was a situation like Tanya Harding situation and Nancy Kerrigan, where a goon was hired to go take care of some work to not to eliminate, but to injure and hurt the competition, so they get an opportunity to get into the playoffs. Don't let Anthony Gibson. Don't let us find out that's what you did, bro. Um, Pressure bust pipes. People do things when the pressure's on. Um, I don't think it was anyone else of Trey Walker, linebacker, released. So that was it the uh, for the Commanders. Who else we got? The Eagles. The Eagles, and then we'll talk about the Cowboys, which was the most interesting to me. But of course, the Eagles we know made the trade for C.J. Gardner. Um, to bring in help because they needed help at the safety spot, which was the most glaring spot. Corners they got it locked up. They got James Bradbury and Darius Slay, so that's not bad. Up and coming safeties Marcus Epps and Avante Maddox, and potentially, like I said, taking C.J. Gardner from the nickel position and moving him to the safety position, which he's played before. They might have just I know Bishop isn't on right now, and I would hate for him to be on and hear me say this, but the Eagles might have something. They might be a little, like we discussed before, the Eagles, I believe it's the Eagles and the Cowboys division to lose. If you've been paying attention on the show or just in general, there has not been a back-to-back winner in some time in the NFC East. Does the Dallas Cowboys continue to debunk that and set that record to the side and get them a back to back after them winning the division last year? Do the Eagles come back into the fray and swoop in and take that championship, the opportunity away from them? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But the Eagles on paper always say, state on paper. Right now, some of these teams, the Eagles, not including the Eagles, look hella good on paper and might be able to do something. The acquisition, of course, that's what I was looking for. Jaquiski Tart. Jaquiski Tart. If y'all knew Jaquiski Tart, in my mind, Jaquiski Tart is the reason why San Francisco did not go back to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to just say he's the reason why, but he did have an opportunity to secure the game for us, and he dropped the interception that would have gave the 49ers the ball back with 3 or 4 minutes to go with the lead, and he dropped the interception. Just utter disgust when I seen it. It's like, how do you do that? But, you know what I'm saying? Things happen. The Rams are the champions. Woohoo. Keep it moving. But, yes, Christy Tart released by the Philadelphia Eagles. Is there anyone else? Carson Strong, who was actually expected to probably get on and maybe stay on the roster. Was released. I know, Eric. But I wasn't trying to hear that at that particular time. Even though that has been a mind, it's like, oh, people play defenses. They ain't got no hands. I was not trying to hear that. It was a basket catch, bruh. You ain't even got to catch it with your hands. Catch it with your body. And he couldn't do it. Couldn't bring it in. They go down and score. And then, of course, we know Jimmy Garoppolo goes out, four and out as Aaron Donald sacks him and then starts tapping his finger. And now we have to sit and wait again. Additionally, Reed Sennett was released. but I think Reese is a candidate to be brought back by the Eagles. So of course, some of these people that was released may be coming back. Devin Allen, wide receiver Devin Allen was released, but I think he's a candidate for um, also to be brought back to be on the practice squad, or it could be, Devin Allen is a Olympic hopeful, so that's going to be, it could be one of those moves as well as they take into consideration. They can put some other people on the roster um, to help out. What I do not see is Jalen Rigger, as we've talked about before, but I'm very sure Jalen Rigger is a key piece to be traded. So, of course, they wouldn't give that asset up with people looking at potentially picking them up. So, uh, okay. And last but not least, let's talk about these Dallas Cowboys. So, I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan, but again, you gotta just be. I would be remiss if I didn't sit up and talk about them being having some talent and them being potentially being a good squad. But the interesting thing is the Cowboys did not keep a single quarterback behind Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is currently the only quarterback on the Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster. Of course, I'm expecting that they're going to probably even be back Will Greer or Cooper Rush after they clear waivers. I think one of them was waivers. The other one is basically just um, is it was just a release and doesn't have to go through waivers. While I'm expecting they're going to probably bring one or two of them back on the 53-man roster. Of course, some stuff room had to be made because you have Tyron Smith that just got injured, as well as James Washington, the wide receiver who was injured. So in order to keep them to where they can play in the year, they have to go through on the 53-man roster. And then after they get through the 53-man roster, they can sit and put them on um, IR to where they can come back later, and then they can bring back. That's two players, more players they can bring back, which may or may not be one. I will hope is going to be a quarterback, unless they're looking at some other quarterbacks that they're looking to see, or like Eric say, maybe possible. Eric, maybe there's a trade. There got some. It's definitely some. I'm very sure something going on. I know that isn't by design. It's basically, I think, it's strategy for them to be able to do that. Additionally, shout out to Devontae Turpin. He made the 53-man roster, one of 8 wide receivers that the Cowboys kept. When I looked at it, the Cowboys kept a total of 20 offensive players, which you could presume that the rest are defensive players and or special teamers, but usually the special teamers are made up of those that roster. So 30 players, you can expect that the other 33 players are coming from the defense side, unless 3 of them, it could be also, though I was about to say unless 3 of them, because they did not keep a long snapper or a punter, in which they still have to go find, unless there's another convert going on. Who's some keys? Like I said, Ben Nucci did Nucci release. JT Walker released. Cooper Rush released. Will Greer released. Uh, Yeah, crazy. So special teams. So, but like I said, I'm sure that they are. They got some. It's something brewing. I'm sure they got something planned in which they're going to go ahead and enact that. But when I seen that roster, I was like, that's crazy. I know they. And then I was like, as I sat back and thought about it, I was like, you know what? It has to be something afoot in that situation. They're not just making those players. I'm not. I don't think. I don't expect they have one quarterback. No team just has one. Well, there are teams, but I'm very sure all of them look forward to bringing in or seeing the clearing waivers or looking at other players that have been released and bringing in somebody. Interesting enough, Eric, when it comes to your Minnesota Vikings, I see where they released Mond and Manning, which means y'all kept Mullins. And Mullins is expected currently to back up um, Kirk Cousins, and I'm very sure they're probably going to bring one of the 2 back, maybe, or like I said, go into the QB bin, free agent QB bin, and bring back a third quarterback. I just don't see any organization. I know San Francisco's done it before one year where they had two quarterbacks, but the second quarterback was trash, honestly, and it was like really they only had one. But yeah, so all that, of course, we know, like I said, getting closer to the start of the NFL season. Um, However, Fox Net NFL, I know we dragged Applewhite the other day when he posted myself, Bishop, and um and Ron in reference to the Fox NFL's projected division winner uh graphic. And so of course he got dragged because everyone was like, Applewhite is it was on a Cowboys Facebook page. But honestly, when you look at it, it was a Fox NFL Sports graphic in which they projected the division winners this year. Those division winners, of course, the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I didn't get a chance to put it out there, but we by Friday we'll have it up. We talked about what we perceive as the top 15 players in the top 32 teams from 1 to 32 power ranking. And the Pittsburgh Steelers uh was didn't make the playoffs. NFL analysts perceive that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a division champion. So that clearly would put them in the top 8 if that was the case. Again, we had the Green Bay Packers not making it. They perceive the Green Bay Packers will win the NFC North, which puts them in the playoffs. So already they saying our list is flawed. Um, Another team, the Indianapolis Colts. I don't remember if we had them making it or not. I don't have my notebook is in the car. But the Colts is expected to win the AFC South, while the New Orleans Saints to win the NFC South, which I expected. I believe that wholeheartedly. The Kansas City Chiefs is expected to win the AFC West. I tend to disagree. I think that's going to be the Chargers or the Raiders that wins that division. But who am I? And then the Los Angeles Rams are expected to win the NFC West. Of course, being a 49er, I can go either way. It's because they know the Vikings is the new NFC North. Uh, Maybe Eric. Like I said, y'all have a good chance. I think being that I would give that to y'all. I wouldn't even lie. I would give y'all NFC North. Um, Currently, it's not as by default though. And then the AFC East is expected that the Buffalo Bills will run rampant with that and get the W in the AFC East, and of course the AFC West to be won by the Dallas Cowboys, in which I don't know how far that off that is, but again, like I continue to say, once the season starts playing out, all this will start to come to fruition, and we'll really start to have an idea and see. Um, Again, the Eagles or the the Cowboys, in my opinion, but that's not to write off the Commanders either. Um, so yeah, that's the divisions. Is there anything else? Now I'm gonna bring this up, right, and then I'm gonna get up out of here so I can get ready to go to work because I gotta do this stuff for the Army 10 mile team. But so I'm gonna bring this up, right, and I'm gonna bring it up again on Monday or Thursday or Friday possibly, so that way while I have Bishop and Ron here. So there was a most likely college football playoff combination that was produced, um, in which there was a 20% chance they had five different sports analysts or writers produce this graphic where it gave a presumptuous what they perceive as being the combinations for the CFP this year. So we'll start from the bottom to the top. At 3% possibility, we had the Miami Hurricanes, the Michigan Wolverines, Texas A&M Aggies, and the USC Trojans at 3% possible for the CFP this year, which would be completely different. Another 3%er, USC Trojans, Texas A&M, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. 3% possibility. At 4%, Georgia Bulldogs, Michigan Wolverines, Texas A&M, USC Trojans. At 5%, USC Trojans, Florida Gators, Michigan Wolverines, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And lastly, according to the All-State Playoff Predictor, a 20% chance at the CFP, the UT Texas Longhorns, Michigan Wolverines, Texas A&M, and or the USC, and lastly, the USC Trojans at 20%. Now, this was not found on the USC fan page or anything like that. So I continue to say, right, that one thing that we've seen is in all five for all five predictors, the Trojans were expected to win this, to go into the CFP. 80% of them have Michigan and Texas A&M, but 100% no Alabama. So again, I say be cognizant of what is going on in the shift of college football. And on that note, I bid y'all a farewell. I greatly appreciate those that were in formation today, rocking with us, had something to say. Be sure, like, you're going to be here for the most part, unless there's something seriously going on. We right here every Monday through Friday, 09 to 1100 hours. Heck, we'll be in 2 weeks, we'll be in Washington, D.C., and it still might be going down. We're gonna make a way or some way, one or two of us to be on there. Maybe just a brief one off, and then we pull up. So and maybe even have some of my frat brothers had to be on the show that morning to sit up and represent for us as we'll be in Washington D.C. walking in our National Alliance Iota and our sister sorority Syro Chi's National Alliance Alpha in Washington D.C. On the 10th of on 9th through the 11th of September. Well, like I said, greatly appreciate y'all rocking with us this morning, being here. Y'all know it's me, your boy Trey. First Formation, E2Gs. Be sure to catch any of them. You can catch, they have a plethora of shows that they watch. The 305 podcast, One Patriots Place, is based out of New England. So if you got any of the Patriots fans that's out there, be sure to catch up with them as they talk about and give you the 411 in the area of when it comes to their beloved Patriots, Celtics, Red Sox. They do it all. You know what I'm saying? You got to have love, admiration for your squad. But this is me, your boy Trey, and I'm out of here. Peace. Greatly appreciate y'all. Love y'all. One.